And I want to turn to Axios reporter Barak Ravid, who is also a CNN political and global affairs analyst, and Eyal Hulata, the former head of Israeli National Security Council and former Israeli National Security Advisor. Thanks to both of you. Barak, I'm going to start with you. What is your latest reporting, not just on this mission that allowed for the IDF to announce this grim news, but kind of what it means in the bigger picture and the ultimate goal here, which is to get all the hostages back and to stop the war in Gaza?
Well, I think that one of the things that are evident from this retrieval of those bodies is that every day that passes, we find out that more and more of those hostages were either killed on October 7th or while they were in captivity. Those specific 3 were killed on October 7th. But the hostage talks are stalled. Just in the last few days, there were several meetings of the Israeli War Cabinet with no real progress when it comes to how to relaunch those talks and how to create a possibility for a breakthrough. And I think that this might be the tragedy, that most of the news that Israelis get over the last few weeks and months about the hostages are mostly about dead bodies that are being brought back from Gaza.
And Eyal here in the studio with me. What is your sense of, I mean, obviously we just heard Barak and Jeremy talk about the sentiment in Israel and the reminder of just how small a country it is, just how small a society is, and particularly when you look at the festival, how it was a gathering of Israelis, particularly young people from all over the country. But you are a national security expert. Can you talk about this news vis-a-vis not just sort of the cultural and societal implication, but the national security implication going forward?
These are very bad news, of course. And I think the reality is that almost any Israeli recognizes the faces of Yitzhak and Amit and Shani, because we know them, right? We know them either directly or through their stories throughout the time. But I think you're rightly asking about the more strategic implications of this, and not just about the personal stories, as hard as it will be. Israel is in a very tight position in these cases. I mean, of course, the public, and I think that large parts also of the government want the hostages out. Benny Gantz, Gadi Eisenkot, others, Gallant, they understand the importance of this. I think Prime Minister Netanyahu understands the importance of this as well. But this is a political decision to be made by the government that would probably crack it, because there are factions in the government who don't want this to happen.
And when you say this, what does this mean?
A hostage deal that would bring home, first of all, the live hostages. Probably several dozens are still alive. It is true that every day that passes, I think there are less and less of them, and we need to bring them back. But this will not end until we get everybody back, including the bodies. The fact that the IDF is risking lives of soldiers to get the bodies out gives us a sentiment of how important this is to the sentiment of Israel public and in the military. Ultimately, though, it is Hamas who's refusing to release them. Hamas took them on October 7. Hamas murdered so many of them either on October 7 and afterwards. There were several times deals on the table that Hamas could have approved. We've seen President Biden and leaders of the world understand and recognize that it's Hamas that is not allowing this to happen because they want the war to completely end before even they release all of the bodies and the hostages. The Israeli public, Israel as a country, cannot agree to that. We did not look for this war. We did not enter this war. We were very much surprised, as everybody knows. We've suffered a total massacre. This war has been waiting for so long, for 7 months. For this to end, we need to get them back home. And this is a reminder of that today.
Sure. And you know, it wasn't that long ago that we had just sort of the latest in the roller coaster of it could happen, it won't happen, it's stalled, it's close on these negotiations when Hamas, their political wing, clearly as a publicity stunt, announced that there was a deal, that they'd accepted a deal. Well, it wasn't actually the most recent deal that was before them, or the most recent offer that was before them that even the U.S. Secretary of State was talking about. Can you explain, it's such a complicated thing, both on the Israeli side, but also when it comes to Hamas and their grip on power and how they approach the war, why things continue to be stalled, and what you think could be a key to a breakthrough.
So first of all, I think the situation on the ground is not getting better by the week. As I said before, the war has been continuing for 7 months. The IDF is incurring more casualties. We've had, of course, this rift.
And more casualties in Gaza.
And more, I'm talking about Gaza, yes?
Yeah, I'm talking about
And of course, more
civilians,
casualties, civilian casualties in
civilians.
Gaza. Definitely,
Yeah.
every day that the war continues, it is a war. You know, Israel is being accused of doing things deliberately. We're not doing this deliberately. I will protect and defend this, but I am cognizant and empathic to the suffering and the casualties in Gaza. This is a war that was brought upon us, and Hamas is using its own population as human shield. But there are casualties indeed. And we've just passed this debate, even strong debate on Rafah. Can Israel do this, not do this, and how this will play out? From an Israeli perspective, for the war to end, we need to get the hostages back, and we need to make sure that Hamas cannot continue to do this.
Sure.
But Sinwar is not willing to just give this away. We will need to force him into this. Unfortunately, the conditions are difficult for that. So I think this will actually continue for a while now before we can reach an opportunity to have a proper ceasefire.
Well, that's not exactly great news, but thank you for being a realist and coming on and explaining the sentiment and the reality. Appreciate it, and thanks to Barak as well and Jeremy for his reporting.